Okay, I've got my drawing done here, and I'm going to go ahead and add some pigment from my dried alcohol ink palette using a brush that's been wet with alcohol, and preferably one that will come to a good point. I'm going to try to replicate this rather minimalist approach that I have here. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of 91% alcohol down on the paper first, just so that I can blend my colors a little bit better. And I'm going to start with some shell pink out of my palette, out of my dried well, and I'm just going to put that in quickly and hopefully kind of loosely on the Yupo paper. And there I've got the shell pink. I want a little bit of variation from that, so I'm going to come in with some pink sherbet. And again, I'm going to use my little well and kind of mix that pigment around a little bit and add a little bit of that in too. Okay, now I'm going to come in with a little bit of a grayish color, but I'm going to add a little bit of pink to it so that it's sort of a pinkish gray. And I'm going to use some mushroom in with the pink that I used for the background here. So I didn't clean my brush first. All I did was add a little bit of mushroom in this well where I had a very small amount of pink. I don't want my brush to be super wet, so I'm going to dry it off a little bit on the ferrule, and I'm going to come in here with this pinkish grayish color. I'm going to put a little bit of that on this branch too. I'm trying to reserve as much white as I can on this. So I'm going to take this brush, I cleaned it off a little bit, and I'm going to come back with just a little bit of green in here. Now I'm going to come up here to the top of it and soften that just a little bit with just plain alcohol. I want the light to be coming from the back of the bird, so I want the front under the chin here to be my darkest red. So the other part is going to be a little lighter, so I'm coming in here with some watermelon, and again trying to remember to leave some white, and then I'm going to come in with a little bit of sangria using that same brush, just a little bit of that sangria color on the front here. Okay, I want to reserve as much white as I can. I can always add more pigment, but I can't always reclaim my white on this Yupo paper. So I'm cleaning my brush now with alcohol, and I'm just dipping it into my alcohol, and then I am blotting it on my paper towel. Once my brush is pretty clean, I'm going to go in and pick up some citrus, which is a very bright light green from my palette, and I'm going to put it in loosely on my bird here. So I want the light coming from the back So I want to make sure that there is some white space, not covering all my white space. Okay, now I'm going to come in with some bottle. I don't have to clean my brush because it's also a deep green, and it's just going to cover up the citrus that I already have on there. So I'm going to come in here with the bottle. It's a very deep, dark green. And I'm going to fill in, again, trying to reserve some white. I'm going to fill in some of this darker green color. Okay. Now the body of the bird has a little bit more pigment on it, and it's not really green. It looks a little green in this picture, but it's really mostly like a brownish color. So I'm going to come back in here with some latte, and I'm going to add a little bit of that latte here. And a little bit of that darker pigment underneath. Here I've got a little bit of that latte on. I'm going to join that green in a few spots. Again, trying to keep as much white here as I can. So just sort of connecting some of these spots, but trying not to go over my whites too much. I'm going to clean my brush. And then I'm going to soften just a few spots here. Got kind of a white band there. Over here, I want to keep that white, but I also want to soften these areas a little bit. I need a little bit more of that dark color right in here. And then I'm going to make this bird's eye brown. So I'm coming in here with some Havana brown, which is a nice warm color. Make sure that your brush comes to a good point for this. This requires a really light touch because, as you see, I don't have the greatest point here. So being very, very careful not to push down too hard on this. It needs to be a little darker in value. Okay. And I need to do that beak. I could do this with the pen. Don't have to do it with the brush. It might be a little safer to do it with the pen. I also have to do his little feet, and I have to add some value to the underside of this branch. Don't want it to be too dark, but a little bit of value here to that underside. I think that's enough. I reserved a bit of white space. Now I'm going to come in with the micron pen and add some loose pen work. I'm going to use an 02 for this. And I want my stroke to be loose and spontaneous looking. Because this paper doesn't have any tooth to it, doesn't have any texture, it's a little harder to put texture in here than it is like on a cotton rag paper where you have that tooth that you can work with. So you kind of have to bear down a little bit more in places, make your line a little thicker in places. It takes a little more effort to do a rough type of a spontaneous texture on this very, very smooth surface. So for me, you know, this is all discovery right now. I'm discovering what I can and can't do with this technique. I like the roughness in this drawing, and a way for me to sort of imitate that is to do kind of a skipping line, kind of, you know, thick and thin and irregular here so that it looks like it's on a rough surface. Now in the picture, the toes are further apart. I didn't like that look, so I'm making the toes on this back foot a little closer together. And this foot. And then the only thing really left that I have to do is the beak, and it's easier for me to move this so that I can use the curve of my wrist while I'm doing it, and I want to make sure that I don't put my hand in any damp ink work, so I'm putting a paper towel down before I do that line. Looking at this, seeing what else I can do here. Okay, I delineated sort of this line here on this one, and I haven't done it on this one here yet. So just coming in there and adding a little bit of texture right there. think that's enough for a sketch. It looks loose and sort of spontaneous. What else can I do to, there we go. Because sometimes you just have to trust your instincts. So I think I'm fairly happy with that. Okay, I'm going to call this one done and move on to the next.